Shantz. I'm the beginning Hindustani and Carnatic teacher at Navatman. I teach elsewhere. I perform both Hindustani vocal and piano. I'm currently working on combining the two and developing an instrumental classical, Hindustani classical piano performance, and then I'll work on a jugalbandi of the two. I learned piano. My dad's a piano technician and was a pianist in his, in college. So it was always in the house. My mom played piano and sang. My dad played piano and sang. I didn't expect as a young person to get into Hindustani music. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I had a friend that invited me to Kolkata, and I thought I would just have an interesting trip and learn some useful things and apply it to my jazz piano. But it turned out to be a lifelong endeavor, and basically because I connected with my teachers and had a good relationship with them, that it made me want to continue. I call Pandit Chomar Shaha Guruji because he's the first musician that I connected with in India, and he's sort of the starting point for my musical endeavors in India. And his wife, Montu Mitaji, she was the first person to suggest that I try Hindustani vocal. I had gone to study harmonium, which is sort of the logical choice for a pianist. But I was living a lot with them, spending a lot of time at their house, and I just tried vocal, and it went well enough that I felt like, oh, this is what I want to be doing with Indian music, and I went from there. And due to having started my own music school in New Jersey and not being able to get back to India, I now study in the US with Pandit Chandra Banerjee, who Guruji, directed me to Chandrada. Learning in India versus learning here, I would say that there's not much difference in the class itself. The context is, of course, different. In Kolkata, it's like pure classical all the time. I have Indian, Kolkata friends that I'm play music with while I'm there. I have American friends that everybody shows up at the same time of year because it's concert season, so we also hang out. And it's wonderful because I don't have to work. I just go and do music all the time. And here, of course, it's more of my daily life with a lot of teaching and integrating my practicing into that. Of course, Guruma and Chandrada have somewhat different teaching styles, so there's a bit of that. But I mean, in India, in Kolkata, you get the full. You understand where everything comes from more because you just sort of intuitively get it because you see people living in that lifestyle, in that value system, in that just set of habits and patterns, and you can see how the music simply arises out of that to be in India. And so I think that's pretty essential for anybody that wants to be a serious Indian classical musician of any kind. You definitely have to go there for a while and go through the consternation of the culture shock and the adjustments and all that stuff, because it's really part of the music. All of the challenges that are faced by anybody living in India are mashed up into the music, and it's part of the beauty of it all. In college, I had a Western classical minor, but my major was jazz. So the initial connection to Hindustani music was through the improvisation, and little seeds had been planted while I was in music school. People would talk admiringly about Zakir Hussain or Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, and so my interest was kind of peaked here and there. And then I met Aaron Hansen, who a lot of people in New York know because he's a great tabla player and who's been studying with Anindo Chatterjee for quite a while. And we hung out in college days and got to be friends, and then he invited me to go to Kolkata. And so I would say, very roughly speaking, Hindustani and jazz improvisation are half exactly the same and half completely different. And that's not just a cop-out to answer it that way. And what I'll say is that the basic skill is exactly the same. You have to keep track of your choices of notes and you have to keep track of where you are in the rhythmic cycle. Jazz rhythmic cycle is obviously different than a Hindustani rhythmic cycle, but you have to coordinate those two things in real time. So that basic skill is already there from my jazz background. And so what I had to appreciate was the trade-offs of note choice and why do rags work the way they do. And I would listen in the early days and I would think, oh, you should sing that next, and then he would sing something else, and I'd say, oh, I wonder, I had to learn about the difference as to why the great maestros make the choices the way they do, as opposed to like what my habit or my previous pattern would be. So, and within that comparison, one understands many subtleties, cultural subtleties, that are not just interesting to learn about a different culture, but you realize that all cultures are made out of the same basic material, just sort of combined differently in different proportions. And to me, reflecting on Indian culture makes me have a separate or a different, distinct view on my own Western background. My long-term goal, long-term is in the next couple of years, is to reintegrate piano back into Hindustani classical. So I still play piano. I play strictly Western music, with a few exceptions, but to find a way to develop skills and translate what I know as a vocalist onto the piano is going to be a long-term goal with the help of my teacher, Pandit Chandra Banerjee. And because in particular the piano is like super un-Indian, it's probably the least Indian instrument there is. You can't interact with the strings are inside, you can't really do much with them. So even like a santoor would be the closest instrument, the closest parallel, but even there you can interact with the strings, and you can use the little mallet things to sort of glide over the strings and all that sort of stuff. Even those you don't have access to at the piano, so it'll be a real challenge. Choose your teacher wisely. I've been very fortunate in my case, but you can't really take a Western approach of like trial and error so much. It doesn't work sort of culturally or musically. So do your research and look into people whose music you really enjoy, and take your time and contact them. When you really feel like you're interested in learning from someone in particular. I really hope Drive East, continues to grow. I think it's a great festival. I like very much the whole integration of Carnatic and Hindustani in one organization. So I hope to get to participate, in the music collective. Logistically, it's been difficult, but I think that opportunity with people of both worlds, in the same organization, is a great one.
Favorite Hindustani instrument?
Sarangi.
Favorite Carnatic instrument?
Violin.
Favorite song in Hindustani vocal?
Vaishnava Jannato.
Favorite Bollywood movie?
Bhubulaya, I like that one. Akshay Kumar, he's a goof. My favorite Indian movies are by Satyajit Roy. Faluda series and Devi, I love that one too.
Yeah. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly.
I like Fred Astaire for his sort of the smoothness of it all, I guess.
Frank Sinatra or Sammy Davis?
Sammy Davis, because he didn't get into the weird schmaltzy stuff that Sinatra got into later. Practice, practice, practice. Things work themselves out if you practice. Don't overthink it. Practice, and if you really get stuck, then it'll be easy for you to take your teacher's adjustment or correction. If you haven't practiced that much, it's weird. It just, like, you have to build up a certain pressure, and then even if you've done something sort of incomplete or wrong, if you've practiced sort of earnestly, then it's a much simpler fix than if you've just sort of halfway practiced and then sort of shied away from that thing because it's hard or uncomfortable. So if you come in, even if you've been practicing wrong, it'll be easier for the teacher to give you the correction and you to grasp that if you've got a whole week of having done something.